Hi friends, welcome to First Studies YouTube channel. This is continuation to AI agents playlist. In this video, we are going to develop AI agent using Azure Foundry Agent service. Please watch my before video so that you will get most out of it, because in our previous video we have created Azure AI Foundry service, and then inside that resource we have created a AI agent also. But we did it using a UI using the AI Foundry. But in this video, we will try to develop the AI agent using Foundry SDK in Python language. Okay. So please consider watching the previous video to get most of it. Otherwise, you will not understand it what it is happening here. Okay. So let's jump into the introduction first. First few minutes we will go theory, and then we will be discussing about a practicality, a practical way of writing a code to create a AI agent. So firstly, what is Foundry service? Basically, it is a service available inside Azure that will bundle everything together for you to develop the agents, to deploy the agents, and to scale them. Everything will happen automatically. You no need to worry about the compute and storage resources underneath them, because this service is hosted on Azure, so Azure will take care of everything. So it's a PaaS service, platform as a service. So when the moment you say PaaS, you no need to manage anything from the backside. When it may be compute, it may be storage. You just focus on your work of developing the AI agent. Now, how you can develop AI agent using the AI Foundry service? Two ways you can do it. One, using a no code method, that is using UI, which we seen in our previous video. Another way is using a SDK. You can also use REST APIs actually. Okay. So using SDK, how it will happen is you have a C# SDK, you have a Python SDK. That means basically libraries in that language. So you can use them and write your code to develop the agents. Now, secondly, what is agent means? I hope you know that from our previous video. So agent is nothing but it's a software, but it works as a service. That means you don't have any traditional software kind of a or a application kind of a UI where you will fill some form and then hit the submit button and all that. It either you will be having a chart experience like how you are having in ChatGPT, or it will be a automated way without any UI. So what this software service will do, it will interact with the people in a generative AI language. So in simple terms, let me explain this with a diagram. So if let's assume if there is an application and you are using that application, if the interaction between that application and you happening in natural language, then you can call it like a agent. Because if you can imagine the chat GPT, you will interact like a messages, right, like a communication channel, right? You won't do any kind of a button submissions, drop down selections, radio button selections, nothing, right? It's like a chat experience. So that means you are interacting in a natural language, but ChatGPT able to understand that, because ChatGPT has behind the scenes LLMs, large language models, to understand what you are telling and accordingly to do your job. It is same to the agents. So you will be, if you have developed some software where you can interact with a natural language, but that software does some job for you, then you can call it like a agent. So these things we have discussed in our last video also, so please watch them. And how agents will be able to do that? So it will take the input in a natural language, LLMs will, or generative AIs will process them, and background behind the scenes the agents will something called tools to perform the actions what you wanted to do. Maybe you want to send an email, so your agent will decide, like like user wants to send an email, and the agent will go and generate a code for sending an email, or maybe refer the code which will helpful to sending the email, and it will send it. So that code or the tool what it refers to do that job is called tool. So agents generally have two kind of a tools: knowledge tools and action tools. All these things we have discussed in last video too, but we will discuss now also in this video high level in the couple of seconds. So why these agents are very helpful is, the usage of these agents is, firstly it will helpful to automate the routine tasks, and also agents will do the decision making by their own. You will be just talking to the agents in a natural language, but they do the decision making, what code to call, what function to invoke, everything, right? They will do their own decision making. So decision making will happen using artificial intelligence, and they are scalable, And agents, unlike other softwares, like how the not how the other softwares were there, even the agents are 24/7 availability for you. They will be hosted on a AI Foundry service. So the examples, we can discuss few examples here. Maybe you can create an agent for personal productivity, maybe sending an email, scheduling the meetings. So you can create your own agent to do that task for you. Research agents, these are agents, maybe they will monitor the market trends, what is happening in a market, and maybe grab the insights from that and maybe generate some reports for you. Maybe sales agent, let's assume you are working in a sales, you want to generate the lead, you want to schedule the follow-up calls or sales calls, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a customer service agent where you need to address the customer commonly asked queries. You can create a customer service agent there. That agent can answer them commonly asked inquiries to the customers. Developer agents, maybe these agents will help you to review the code, to do the bug fixes, all that kind of stuff. Now next thing is how to use this Azure AI Foundry service. So let's understand this with a purpose. So basically this service, as I said, help you to create the agents and to deploy them and to scale them and to make them available at a very rapid speed, without worrying about the compute and the storage, because it's a PaaS service. You need to focus on agent development. That entire service will help you to do that. Before this Foundry service, if you wanted to achieve the same agentic like experience, then there is lot of code you have to write. You need to create a APIs, and then you need to you need to create bunch of custom functions, and your APIs should call that custom functions. You need to do that deterministic decision making. You cannot process the natural language by your own. You need to invoke some APIs. So you need to do lot of coding to get the similar kind of agentic experience before this AI agents and Foundry service agent. But now with the Foundry agent service, everything will be handled automatically. Let's assume you have an application. Uh, uh, let's assume you have a console application or a Python application. You have some application. Okay. Now you want this application to be agentic. That means from this application, you want to call a agent. Okay. So let's assume this is a agent. So from this application, you want to call the agent. So to call the agent, you just need to write few lines of a code, because this agent and everything will be created on a Foundry service now automatically, and you will be not spending much time there to create the agent, hardly couple of lines. So everything will be very easier now because of these Foundry services. Okay, if Foundry services were not there, to get this whole experience will be very costlier. You need to write lot of code. So you will see that practically also when we do in this demo in couple of minutes in a practical way. Okay, so that is the main purpose of this Foundry service, where to make easy for the developers life, so thereby they can make their applications agentic, or they can create the agents very fastly and make it highly available to everybody without worrying about compute and storage. What are the key features of this agentic service, right? So when you use the agentic service, what are the benefits I am going to get? What are the features of this service, right? So automatically calling, what it mean by automatic calling is, uh, you no need to worry about like how I have to write a code to call to the model, to invoke the tools, to return the results. Everything will be handled. So when I say, so if you think about agentic experience, you will be doing a natural language communication to the model, AI model, large language model, and the model has to process it, and the model has to take a decision of some custom function to invoke to deliver that job, and then finally compose the results and return it. So to do these steps, to talk to model, to invoke to some function to run, to return the results, we no need to write any code for this. This agentic service, Foundry service will take care of that. That is advantage, right? You just need to focus on which model to use, what custom function you want to write. That's it. Rest everything, how to call these components individually, will be handled by the service itself. Now the second thing is securely manage data. Obviously, once you create an agent there, whatever the communication you do with that agent, all the data will be secured there. And out of the box tools will be available. When I say tools, let's assume for every task, whatever you want to perform, whatever you want your agent to perform, you no need to write a code. Some functions are already available as a tools there for you. You can use them and thereby agent can call those functions to deliver your task. For example, you wanted to do the file retrievals. You don't need to write a code. Already inbuilt facility is there. You just enable that for your agent. It will do. Or maybe there is something called a code interpreter. So code interpreter is a AI service. Imagine this way: if you tell it to maybe draw a diagram, so it will draw it, or maybe do a calculation, or maybe in a natural language, whatever you tell, right, it will try to generate a Python code for that, and it will try to run that code for you automatically. So that means you no need to write a code. If you use a code interpreter and you just tell what task to perform, code interpreter will write that code and it will run it. So you can use that code interpreter also as a tool for your agent. So thereby agent will call the code interpreter. For example, you want to do addition or send an email. So code interpreter will generate a custom function for it. It will write a code for you behind the scenes to send an email, and the agent will call that code automatically. So it's a out of box tool available for you. And you want to perform a Bing search, AI search, or you want to invoke some Azure function. So all these things are inbuilt available for you. You can directly plug in them for your agent. Thereby your agent can call to those things for better task delivery, right? Next, flexible model selection. Any model you can deploy to your agent, right? So when you create Azure Foundry service, you will get something called a project. Inside a project, you will be deploying the model. You know this from my previous video. So any model which you are interested to take it for the agentic service, you can do that. And enterprise grade security, obviously, because it's a Azure service, you will have all the security layers there. You can do the keyless authentication using your Entra ID. So all that mechanism is also possible. So now coming back to Foundry agent service resources, how the common setup will be. So generally when you are creating a agent, the way you set up the resources will be having two kind of a setups. Either maybe a basic agent setup or a standard agent setup. So in basic agent setup, you will create a Azure AI Foundry resource. When you create, automatically it will create project in it, and inside the project you will have the Azure AI services and you will have your agent. This is a common basic agent setup. You seen this in our last video too, right? So we created a Foundry, we got a project there, and then we created an agent inside of it. So in a standard or in a more comprehensive setup, the setup goes like this. So you will be creating Azure AI Foundry resource, and it will get a project inside of it. And inside the project, if your agent setup need to interact with couple of other resources like storage accounts, key vaults, so all that things you can keep it inside the Azure AI Hub, and that Azure AI Hub you will be connected with your project. So this is nothing but like a Azure AI Hub. So basically, whatever the resources from Azure you want them to be available for the agent, create them in a AI hub and give it inside the project. So thereby your agent can use them. Okay. Then next one is now developing the agents with Foundry service. Like now how to develop this. So this is all we understand about why this AI Foundry service is there. What is AI agent mean? What are the benefits? How the basic architecture of the AI will be, AI agent will be in the Foundry service. We have seen all these things. Now, if you want to develop it, AI agent which can interact with your application, how to do that? So let's try to understand that. So basically, as I said, this Foundry service give you UI to generate the AIs that you know it from my previous video, but it also gives you SDKs and REST APIs that thereby you can write the code and that code can create a agents for you. Okay, and we are going to focus on using a Python SDK to create a agent in this video. So now how the basic flow will be when you do that. So this is how it will be. The diagram explains it clearly. You have a AI Foundry service. When you create it, obviously you will create something called project in it. Okay, so you will create something called project in it. Now when you create a project, you will get this project endpoint. This is project endpoint. Okay, this is project endpoint, and inside the project you will be creating a agent. This is agent. You will be creating a agent. Then you will try to interact with the agent in a natural language to make certain tasks to be done. So that is called nothing but like a thread. So this is thread. So you will be initializing a thread to interact with the agent, and the agent in turn uses the data or the tools what you provide to accomplish the task. And when you initialize the thread, you first start with some conversation here. Okay, then that conversation, for that conversation you will get a response. So agent will interact with the tools and deliver the response back to you here, and this loop continues. If you have further questions, you will ask further questions, and this loop continues. Once you are done with everything, you will come out of the loop, and that is how the whole process and setup will work. Okay, so what kind of a tools available? So if you closely observe, agent is able to do some task here. Sometimes it may be a basic task like how I discussed in my last video. Maybe tell me what is the claim limit I have. So it will refer some policy documentation, it will answer me. So here the tool is the knowledge base. And sometimes maybe I will ask agent to send an email. So agent has to go and send an email. Maybe it has to run some program. So here the tool will be a program or a function which I created, or maybe I will use a code interpreter that will create the code automatically and execute that code to deliver the task. So tool can be in two ways. In agent, tools are available in two ways. And this we have seen in our last video also, if you remember, right? So knowledge tools, one is knowledge tools, another one is actions tools. Knowledge tools where you will provide text files or maybe Word documents, anything kind of a knowledge. And actions is where you will provide some custom functions, or maybe code interpreter you will use it there, because code interpreter can create a code for you and run and accomplish your task. So these two kind of a knowledge hubs are the tools will be available for the agent. So knowledge tools, in the knowledge tools you will have something called a Bing search, file search, AI search, fabric data agent. These are out of box facilities available for you. When you come to the action tools, you will have something called code interpreter, as I said, that will generate a code on fly and execute it for you. Or you can create your own custom function, or you can have a Azure function to be called there. Or if you want to make some OpenAI call, some API call to some REST API, then you can use that Open API specifications. Okay, so this is the theory part completely. So now let's try to focus on creating one agent using the Foundry service. So that the ask is very simple. So I want to create one agent, but I don't want to obviously I want to create this agent in the AI Foundry. Okay, AI Foundry agent service, but I don't want to create it via UI. I wanted to use a SDK. Maybe I wanted to write a Python code, and I have something called a Python program here. Maybe okay, I have a Python program or application. This application should create a agent, and in this application itself I should be able to do the communication. Okay, so when I say communication, like maybe initiating that thread, asking a question to the agent and getting a response, all that kind of a stuff. So this is the whole thing I want to achieve using a program. So how to do that? So for this, from Microsoft we have a code repository already available. So we will be using this code repository and doing the demo to you now, like how we can create a agent directly. So what I will be doing it, let me open this code repository first. Okay, so let me go to browser. So let me open browser here, and let me copy paste this URL. Don't worry, I will give all these URLs and everything to you guys in the description of the video. So now if you see here, this is the code repository what we have. So we can download this from here. So you can hit the download zip. It will download a zip file. You can unzip it, or you can use the git commands also. If you know the GitHub, you can use the git commands and you can do that cloning part. So I have already downloaded the zip file. It is available in my downloads folder. So if I go to the downloads folder, you should be able to see it here. Okay. So now I did the unzip of that folder already. Even that unzipped folder is also here, but let me do one thing. So let me not take that. So let me copy this zip one, and let me go to the desktop and paste it here. So I pasted the zip file zip here. Now I am going to extract this onto my desktop, and then I will open this Python project using my Visual Studio. So if you go inside of this, see, it extracted it. If I go inside of it, MS Learn Agent, you see lab files. If you go inside of it, you see this second one, build AI agent. That is what we are going to use for this demo, because that folder contains the code which helps you to develop the AI agent in the AI Foundry using a Python code. Okay, so let me open my VS Code now. So I am opening a VS Code because I wanted to open this folder in my VS Code. So let me close which is currently available there. So I am closing it there. If I go inside this folder, I have a Python folder and I have a couple of files here. You see .env file. If you know Python, you know that it's an environment file where you can keep the key value pairs related to the configurations. And you have a agent.py file, that is a main file where you have a Python code which will create an agent. So let me first open this folder in the VS Code. So I'm going to the VS Code, file, open folder. So it's on a desktop. So let me go inside this folder, lab files, Python. Sorry, let me hit the select folder button and let me hit the yes, I trust it. So now if you can closely observe, let me, if you can closely observe, I got the environment file, I got agent.python file, data.txt, requirements.txt. I recently explained about what is this requirements.txt file when I am explaining about the virtual environments in Python playlist. Please watch that if you don't know. But ideally, this requirements.txt file will contains the libraries what you need, which you want to install for your particular environment or in your the global Python what you have in your system. So we have to install whatever the packages is there in the requirements.txt file. So let me close everything. So let me go to the requirements.txt file. So it has two libraries, python.env, then Azure Identity. So .env package will help you to read the configurations from the .env file. So from the .env file, the project endpoint, the model deployment name, whatever we have, it will read these values in the agent.python file. So firstly, let's get our project endpoint. Let's get our deployment name also from the Azure AI Foundry service. So I have already created a Azure AI Foundry service. So let me open that. If you don't know how to create it, I have shown that in my last video. So please follow that. So let me go to the portal.azure.com. That is a Azure portal website. So inside that I will be navigating to the AI Foundry service. You see AI Foundry service, and I should see my resource created there. One second. So let me go back. So yeah, inside this resource group I have created, see AI Mahir. So let me open that. So this is my Foundry service which I created. Let me click this button to open the AI Foundry Studio or a Foundry portal in the next tab. And if you can closely observe here, you see here we are inside the Foundry service. This is the first project. As I said, inside a Foundry resource you will have project, and then I am right now in the overview and I can see my project endpoint here. So let me copy that project endpoint. So I am copying that project endpoint and going to the .env file, and I am giving you that my project endpoint here. Now I need a deployment name also. And you know from my previous video, when you go to models plus endpoints, you will have a deploy. You need to deploy some GPT or LLM model there. So I already deployed GPT 4.1. Let's copy that model name what I gave, and then go back to my Visual Studio Code and use my model name here. So let me hit Ctrl S to save these changes. So environment setup is done. So the AI Foundry resource what I created, I taken that endpoint and I taken the LLM model deployment name also to it. Okay. So this is done. So let me save these changes. Now you see there is something called data.txt file. So assume like this is a data, and we have something called category and cost columns, and category have accommodation, category has this much of cost involved, transportation category has this much of cost involved, meals has this much, miscellaneous. So it's a basic, some basic data, aggregated data available. Now what I want to do, my agent should have the knowledge of this data, and when I cross question like which category is the least costed or highest costed, so whatever the questions I can ask, it should be able to return me the answer me back. And also maybe if I ask it to build a chart out of this category and cost to show in a visual, then it should able to do that. So am I going to create a program for building that chart diagram? Then the answer is no. I will use something called code interpreter, as I said. And if you use a code interpreter based upon what you are asking, it will generate a code for you and it will create a visual also for you. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to use a code interpreter. So we understood the data. Now if you see agent.python file, you can see we are using couple of libraries here. So right, so we need to use all of them. Basically we need to run this requirements.txt file to deploy those packages. So to do that, I am going to the run, and I am going to sorry, not run, to the terminal, and I am going to the new terminal. So in this new terminal, now either I can run this requirements.txt file onto my global Python, which will directly deploy everything into my global Python, or I can create a virtual environment for me, and within that environment I can do this packages deployments too. So either of thing I can do that. So let me try to maybe create a virtual environment for us. So I am writing a command python module venv. So that means I want to create a environment with the name my hyphen env. When I hit that enter button, if you can closely observe, it created a folder here, my env. That means it will create a virtual environment. Inside that environment, you will have Python and everything. So I have discussed about virtual environments already in my Python playlist. So please watch it. So once this is done, my virtual environment is ready. Now I have to, let me type CLS to clear that. Uh, Now I have to move my focus to my virtual environment, my terminal to my virtual environment. So how I can do that? So to do that, I can go to this virtual my environment, and I can go to the scripts, and you see there is something active da. So this is a PowerShell file. If I run this, my terminal will move to that virtual environment. So before running it, right, sometimes we should end up with some policy error. So you might end up with a policy error. To avoid that error, what you do, copy this thing. I will provide this also in the chart description. This way, if you run this command, it will set some execution policy that will avoid the error for you to go to the virtual environment. So I have set that. Now I want to navigate into the virtual environment. So what I will be doing it, my hyphen env, inside that scripts folder, inside that active. So if I run that, see now if you closely observe, before there is nothing, there is something called PowerShell, and you have the path, that's the cursor before in the terminal. But now the terminal cursor, if you observe, it has something called my env. So that means right now your terminal cursor is inside the virtual environment. So that is a indication for that. Now inside this, I wanted to install the packages. So what I will do, pip install, then r, I will be referring to requirements.txt file, and I want to install all that packages whatever listed, that Azure identity and python.env packages into my virtual environment. I don't want to install them into my global Python, which is available at a system level. I am installing it into that virtual environment. It's like a sandbox. It's like a small box within my system. So within that box itself, now I am installing the packages. So it will take a couple of seconds. Let's wait for it. As you can see, it is installing packages. See, this is where I have ran my command, but it is collecting the packages and trying to install it. Great. I hope the packages got installed. So what I can do, I can use this pip list command to list down what packages I have in my virtual environment right now. As you can see, we have Azure Core, Azure Identity, and also we have .env. All the required packages were there in my virtual environment now. So now what I will do, I will go to the agents.python file, and let's try to examine what is there. Let me minimize this virtual environment. So if you see, uh, you have couple of comments here. The code is not fully available here. So I will be changing this whole code because I have the code already uh, in my local, in my OneNote. I will be copy pasting it here. But let's understand this at a high level first, and then we will do the copy pasting. Okay. So some pack libraries we are importing it here. This will help you to do certain tasks. Maybe reading that .env file for the endpoint and the GPT name, and also a couple of other stuff. So if I go here, see firstly so it is asking me to add some references to make this code fulfill. So so I will do all that. I don't want to do one by one, so that will take a lot of time and confusing. So basically understand that. So here we are going to add some references which will help us to interact with Azure AI Foundry service and help us to create a agent. Okay, and then So from here to here you see some code there, right? So this code helps actually to clear the console when we are running this entire Python file, and to read the .env file for the project endpoint and the deployment name. And also you see there is something called data.txt file which I shown, right? So to read that file and to print that file data, because when I run this application, when I run this Python file, firstly I wanted to display what data we have, and then maybe I want to get the chart experience where I can chart with the agent. So before that I need to write a code to create a agent also. So all these comments were talking about the same thing. Let me get the full actual code here and replace it, and we will discuss further. So let me go to my OneNote, and here if you see, all this is the agent.python file code. So I will give all this code to you guys. Let me copy paste it. In the video description it will be available. So let me change this whole code from the agent.python file and let me save this. Now if you closely observe, let me minimize this explorer from the left side. So the important libraries what we have discussed just now, and you see the under add references, you see couple of references here: Azure Identity, Azure AI Agent. Why these references? Because we wanted to interact with AI Foundry service and create a agent there. So these libraries will actually help us to do that. And then we are creating something called a main function. Inside the main function we have written the whole code of creating a agent and getting the chart experience and everything. uh, and then we are using a if. That means when you are, if you are executing agent.python file, then it will go inside this if block, and it will invoke that main function what you create. So your execution will actually start from here, and it will go here into this main function, and that's where your execution will kickstart. So what is there inside the main function? Let's try to see that. So if I open it, so firstly till here, as I said, it is going to read the configurations, project endpoint, deployment name, and it is going to print that uh, that file, right? The data.txt file there. And also if you see here, all the code is not properly set up here. So you need to make sure in Python code always everything is properly intended. When I say intended, the spaces should be correct. Okay, so from here to here there is everything looks good. Then let me use some space here to differentiate. So from here I am going to connect to the agent client. What is agent client means? A class available inside the Python SDK that will help you to create a client for the agent, using which you can create a agent actually in the Foundry service. So I am creating a object for it here. You can see, and when I am creating a object, I am kind of using the default Azure credentials. This will use your Azure credentials from your Azure CLI. So what you need to do before running this file, you need to have the Azure CLI in your local and connect to Azure CLI using the AZ login credentials. I will tell that. I will come to that in just a bit. So basically, I am creating a endpoint. I am passing the endpoint to it, and I am passing the credentials to the agents client constructor, and I am creating a agent client. So now the agent client is having my Foundry endpoint. The project endpoint is nothing but like my Foundry endpoint. And also I am passing my credentials, this using the default credential. It will take the credentials from the Azure CLI what I have in my local system where I have my credentials saved, and it will basically create a agent client object. Then once that is ready, let me delete this code, it is not needed. Now with that agent client what we created it, it is going to use that file what we have data.txt file, and it is going to give that file. Because if you remember in our last video, you have to give the knowledge and also you have to use the code interpreter there, right? Both of them. So this step is we are giving a knowledge, we are giving that file path where the our agent should have the knowledge of the data.txt file, this file. Okay, so we are giving that file path here, we are uploading that, and then we are printing it saying we uploaded that. And then now we are creating a code interpreter now, because we have to plug in this file and code interpreter both into my agent. So I'm using a code interpreter now. And finally on the agent client, I am calling the create agent function that will help you to create a agent. And when you are creating agent, you should give what model to use. So we have the model deployment name in the .env file. So the same model we are able to read it from here. The same variable we are using it here. So we are giving a model when we are creating agent, we are giving a name to our agent, and we are giving a instructions to our agent. saying you are a AI agent that analyzes the data of the which is available in a file, and if you and if you use a requester for the chart, you will create it and you will save them in a .png file. So we gave a general instructions for our agent. This is like a system prompt, and then we are giving the tools as my code interpreter. Okay, the code interpreter what I created is here, and then finally I'm printing the statement saying right using agent. That means so this step actually creates the agent in my AI Foundry. So if you go to the AI Foundry right now, I don't have any agents. So if you go to the agents menu here, and if I refresh it, you will see no agents here. You see there is no agent. But if you want to create an agent, you will hit this new agent button. One second, let's wait the. So you will hit this new agent button, and you will give the name of the agent. You will use the deployment, what deployment to use, and you will provide some instructions like you are a AI, you have to do this kind of a task. You will give that instructions, and also you will give the knowledge, the data.txt file here, and under the actions, where is the actions? So under the actions, you will give the code interpreter to use. So these two are like a tools to the agent. So this is like a doing the things in a UI way. But let me delete this. So but I am doing it via program using the Foundry SDK Python code. So there is a predefined code, boiler code already available. I am using it as it is. When you guys doing it, you can also use the same thing. But ideally, I am doing the same thing. I am doing the model name, agent name, giving the instructions, giving the tools to it, everything. And then from here to here, this step will create an agent for us in our system in the Foundry service. Once the agent is created it, now we should start the thread. So now agent is available. I don't want to play with the agent in the playground here like how I did it in the last video. So I wanted to play it using my application, which is this Python application. So I have to create a thread now. So I am creating a thread here using the same agent client object. This agent client object does the everything for you. So it is very important to create this client object. So I am creating a thread, and now I am initiating a loop, because the conversation will always go in loop until I want to quit the conversation, right? So I have to create a loop here. So I am creating a loop here, and I am taking the user input. I am saying enter the prompt, type quit or exit if you want to come out of the conversation. If you don't want to come out of the conversation, type anything whatever you want to ask to the agent. So I am taking the input. If it is a quit, then I am closing the execution there. Or if user don't type anything, then I am asking him to type a prompt. Then once user enters certain prompt, then using the same agent client object, I am creating the message based upon the prompt what user enters, and that message will go and start the processing. So uh, now I am using the same agent client object and starting the process. I'm running the thread. I'm starting the process, and once the process starts, if any failures happens, it will go inside saying and says that the run failed, agent invocation failed, or agent is not able to run. But if there is no failure, then it will continue, and what it will do, it will try to continue the conversation, and it will try to give the response back in a last message, and that response will be printed for you. And this loop from here to here, this while loop will continue until your conversation is going on. Okay, so because this whole thing will continue, the more you questions ask, again and again it will go the loop. So once you enter quit or exit, that's where the loop will come out using this break statement. And once the loop come out, this is where the conversation happen. Once the loop come out, all the conversations whatever you did it, the whole conversation will be printed here, because the whole conversation agents will the conversation, the threads what you do with the agents will be stateful. So agents will maintain that history. So all that history I am just printing back it here. I am just printing back and I'm printing conversation log, and I'm printing the whole log. Okay, so finally I'm also printing the image whatever it generated. If I asked the agent to create a pie chart or something based upon a data, then that image also it is printing back. And finally it is cleaning up the resource. That means it is deleting the agent. So once it is all done, I want to delete the agent also, so this line of code will delete it. So if you can closely observe, we have a couple of steps. So firstly we have, if you see here, firstly we added the references, and then nextly we clear the console, and we have printed the data.txt file just for the user understanding what data on top of what data agent is working. Then we are creating a agent client constructor class object Once that object is ready, so we are creating a agent by giving the model name, agent name, and the tools code interpreter as a tool. And then we are starting the conversations here by creating a thread. And once somebody say quit, that's where we are coming out of the conversation and we are printing the whole conversation logs here, and finally deleting that agent what we have created also. So this is the whole code what it is available now. So now let's try to run this application and see whether it is able to create an agent and help us to do the conversation on top of the data.txt file and all that stuff. Whether it will happen or not, let's try to see that. So now here let me type CLS to clear this. So now I am going to type Python space agent.py file. So firstly let me save these changes. So agent.py file. So let me hit enter in the terminal. So it should start running it, but you see some error here. It is saying I am not able to find azure.ai.agents module. So this module is not available. Why it is not available? If you see here, I am referring to that module, but I haven't deployed it. So you might be thinking we might have deployed it. If I go to the requirements.txt file, it is not there. Sadly, we missed to do that. So let's try to deploy that, right? So let me clear it. So let me say pip install azure hyphen AI hyphen agents. That is the package name. I know it. So that is the reason I'm typing it. Otherwise, you can ask Copilot or the ChatGPT or the Google. So let me hit enter to install this package now. You can see that package installation is happening here. So package installation completed. So let me type CLS to clear that console or a terminal. So now let me try to run Python space agent.py file, right? So I'm trying to run my application basically. So this should start the execution. Initially it should print the data. See, it is printing the data as I said, and then it should open up the terminal for me to have the conversation with the AI agent. So firstly it will create a agent in my Foundry service, and then it will show me that. You see that it create. So the moment you see using a agent data agent, that means it has created a agent in my Foundry service. Let's validate that first. So let me go to the browser, let me go to the agents. I should see a agent here. So let me hit the refresh button here. So the data.agent, you see that I see the agent there. How the agent came here? Because we have created using the Foundry SDK in our code. So our Python application is able to create an agent and try to use the agent also. Now it is asking me to enter the prompt. If you don't want to enter, you type the quit or exit to come out of the prompt. So now I want to have the conversation with the agent. So let me continue. So tell me which category has more cost. So that is the question I'm asking, because this is on top of this data only my agent is working, right? So that's the question I'm asking. So let me hit enter and let's see whether it will able to figure it out and tell me. I think transportation is the top cost involved category here. So let's see what response we will get from the agent now. Okay, so if you see, the category with the highest cost is transportation with the 2301. If you would like to uh, see a chart of the cost by category, please go ahead and type. So that's what it's saying. So let me try. So now I want to say, so yes, I want to chart maybe. So maybe I will say like create a chart, maybe pie chart. So let me say create pie chart on category and cost. So let me hit enter and see. So when I asked this second prompt, when I asked the first prompt, it is able to answer because we gave that data.txt file as a tool to agent when we are writing a code. Now the second question, it will be able to see it generated the .png file also for the question what I have asked, like create a pie chart. So how it is able to do that? We use the core interpreter tool there. So that code interpreter will write a code for us to generate the chart from the data, and this agent would have been created that image. But sadly, because it's a local Python what I am running it, so this file might have been in the sandbox inside the Foundry service. We cannot access it, but let's try to see the same image within the Foundry service and make sure it really does that. So before that, what I will do it here, let me try to hit the quit now. And the moment you hit the quit, as I said, right, so it will print all the conversation log, like first what I asked, then what agent replied, then what I asked, then what agent is replied, everything. It will print the whole conversation history basically. But you might be wondering, it printed lot of things, but background whatever happened, it printed everything, right? So, and finally it also gives you that image back, but sadly you cannot see it here because it's a Python file. If I can create a UI on top of it, then that is very much possible. But let's make sense of that chart now within the Foundry service within the agent itself. But now since I did the quit, if you remember, if you see our code, the moment in the prompt, if I say quit here, let me open this while loop where the conversation happened. The moment I say quit, it will come out of this while loop. It will come out of this while loop, and finally it will delete that agent also. So now if I go to my browser, my agent would have been deleted already. So let me refresh this and see agent is deleted. So now what I will be doing it right. I want to see that image also so that I can make more sense. So let me go to terminal and let me rerun this code, and this time I will try to have the conversation directly on the AI Foundry service inside the resource, not in the Python app. So let's wait. You see it created a agent now. It's very faster. Now let me go back to my Foundry service and let me hit here. I should see the agent. Yes, see my agent is available. Agent name is data agent. Let me go to the playground because I wanted to work with the agent now from the Foundry service itself. Let me hit the let's go button, and now let's select. See, I selected my agent only. So this is where I can start my conversation here. So I can ask the same questions. Tell me which category has more cost. So I'm asking my first question, and let's see what response it generate to this question. It will work correctly only like how it was working before. You see that it is telling transportation category has the more cost with the 2301, and also it printed this is what it has. So now I want a visual, right? So give me chart, pie chart maybe. Okay, give me pie chart for category and cost data. So let me ask the second question. This time it should generate the chart using a code interpreter, and it will give you as a PNG file. You see that it is giving me as a PNG file. Now when you click that PNG file, it will open it here. See, it downloaded here, and when I open the PNG file, I should have a pie chart. You see, it is clearly giving a pie chart like transportation this much, miscellaneous this much, meals this much, accommodation this much. uh, Image is pretty good, but the labels were not properly arranged. That's fine. The idea is not to get a perfect image here, but the idea is to show I can use the Foundry SDK to create a agent, and I can build an application on a communication application, a chart kind of an application I can build on top of it where I can chart, right? So not only the playground which is available inbuilt inside the AI Foundry, I can write my own code where I can get this chart kind of an experience, and I can interact with my agent. That way it will do the job. So not only Python application, you can create even C# application also. You can have a web page also on top of it, up to us like how we wanted to do. But I hope you got a sense how to use this Azure AI Foundry service to create the agents from the previous video and this video. Previous video we have created a agent service using a UI completely, but this time we did it using a Python SDK. Thank you for watching. So please watch this whole video once again if you are not sensing it. And remember, whatever the lines of a code I have it here, I will provide in the description of the video. The same lines you will use it whatever the agent you wanted to develop now. So maybe here I used a code interpreter to generate that pie chart for me, right? So somewhere here I have, but in your case maybe you will invoke your own function. So you will create a Azure function maybe, and that function has some logic to accomplish, and that function you will be using as one of the tool to the agent. So I think we will see that in our next video, but that's the basic thing. Otherwise rest every all lines will remain mostly same. Some changes will happen maybe in the instructions or maybe the agent name whatever you wanted to give, but the core code what is available here, it is the same code what you use, like how many ever agents you are going to develop. Only changes will happen the way you write your Azure functions or the way you write your custom functions, that will change, or the way you want to build the application on top of the agent. Like here I build a Python application, but maybe you want to create a web application, the way you want to build that will change, but the core element of the code which you use to create an agent in a Foundry service and get that chart kind of experience will remains always same. So this code is very helpful, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please watch this video multiple times if you are not sensing it. It is a very important to understand. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.